Okay, Victor, just to torture people further with the sound of my voice, here's the headline. CIA whistleblower alleges cover-up of COVID-19 lab leak intelligence. Spy scientists repeatedly concluded that a lab accident caused the COVID-19 pandemic, but more senior bureaucrats watered down and suppressed their conclusions. A CIA senior operations officer testified to Congress on Wednesday. His name is James E. Erdman III. He described under oath in a hearing called by Rand Paul on Wednesday a pattern of obstruction that promoted the conclusions of a tight-knit group of virologists close to Anthony Fauci while downplaying the conclusions of the intelligence community's own biological experts. It goes on, Victor. I think most people probably have heard about this. So would you comment on this? And also, we've talked about it before, Stephen Quay, who's been your guest on podcasts, is also up for running this department. Go ahead, please.
Well, what it basically was is that Donald Trump came into office in 2017, 18, 19. In 2019, the economy was booming by November. And then we had this mysterious virus in which all of the medical community, and if you remember what Hillary said, she said it was a gift from God because it destroyed the momentum of Donald Trump. And then all of the agencies, the deep state administrative, whatever you want to call it, and that includes these middle to high level CIA people. And Donald Trump, the first administration, remember, he said, I had only been to Washington 10 or 15 times in my life. And he didn't really know that it was not just there was no really Democratic Republican antithesis as far as the bureaucracy. It was all left. And he got people in there. They're fine people. Bill Barr, John Bolton, Jim Mattis, I know, John Kelly, you name them. But they were not ideologically akin to what he wanted. And they felt that Donald Trump was a dangerous character, and their duty was not just to carry out his directives and use their expertise to expedite his agenda, but to stop it. So it was that context. So when Donald Trump came out, very early, he said it was a China virus. And he started saying things. Why did they stop travel outside of Wuhan in China, but not to our countries? Because they were spreading it. And we're going to get out of the WHO. That was an anathema. That was a heresy. He was an apostate as far as the bureaucracy. So in that context, Anthony Fauci and Francis Collins and the hierarchy of the National Institutes of Health, the CDC, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Fauci's turf. And by the way, by title, he wasn't the important person, but by tenure and aggrandizement and the money at his disposal, he was running them all. And so they had felt that it had been unwise to stop gain-of-function research. And it wasn't that dangerous, and they wanted to keep going. So they green-lighted the sale of instrumentation to that Wuhan lab. They encouraged people to go over there, and they directed at least $600,000 to the arch-villain, Peter Daszak, who stealthily was funding it in a small but, symbolic way. And they were not capable. They either were not capable of ensuring safety because they were amateurs. The French built the thing, and they didn't understand how it worked. And people had gone over there and said, this is a disaster waiting to happen. Or the PLA came in and was running it very quickly. And they had military concerns. It might have been a bioweapon tangential operation. We don't know. And it leaked. And then Fauci thought, oh my gosh, this thing, it killed a million Americans and 50 million, but that number was just artificially low. I got it twice. I had long COVID for the first time 6 months, second time 4th month. The mass that I had in my lung, the ground glass opacity, one of the radiologists said this is from some type of infectious inflammation that you had. and probably was what caused the mutation. But all of us have those stories about how it affected their lives. And he was responsible for it. Fauci was. And Collins knew that. And so they got together right after that and they tried to hide it. And part of that hiding is they need an official imprimatur from an investigative agency. And so they called the CIA, and it was not really under a Trump person at the time. And they said, we've got to stamp out this right-wing Donald Trump racist rant, whatever language they needed to convince them. It wasn't much, because the people we know from the FBI and from John Brennan's CIA and from Peter Strzok, and they hated Trump. Director of National Intelligence, CIA, they all hated him. So they tried to cover this up and tried to say, we need an official investigation. And there was a whistleblower and said, you people are lying. All of the people in the field have gone over there and they've looked at this. If it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, it's a duck. Oh my gosh, there's a level 4 biology lab right in Wuhan. It started in Wuhan. They've never found an animal that transmitted the disease to a human. There is no evidence that people got it in the people who got the virus came out of the lab. The people who tried to call attention to it are missing. And they kept at it. Peter Daszak got Lancet, one of the most prestigious journals in the world on medicine. They got them to make a phony investigation to say it was a pangolin. And that was it. Nicholas. I'm trying to remember his name. Nicholas. He was at the New Yorker. He was a scientific writer. He's in his 70s, and he was really good. And he wrote about it very courageously. And they hounded him, and they fired him. And Tom Cotton wrote remember that op-ed said it came from the Wuhan lab, and they went nuts. And
Yeah,
now we know why. And then we know why Biden pardoned them, because he knew they were culpable. The only thing that's a mystery now, the statute of limitations are over. They're pardoned for their sins, but they're not pardoned for their future sins. So I think it'll be very hard for Fauci or Collins to come back into Congress and testify under oath, because they will ask them point blank, did you or did you not fund this? Did you or did you not write this email? Did you or did, and if they lie, they're subject to prosecution, and this administration will prosecute them. And so that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
As far as Fauci, he did so much damage, to the. You don't need a mask. Who needs a mask? You need one mask. If you get 2 masks, it's better. We don't know whether the vaccine. It's such a new virus. The vaccination will prevent you from getting infected, and it will prevent you from infecting others. And then when they had the breakout case, like 7 months, I got COVID 6 months after I was vaccinated, and I got vaccinated early March of 2021. When was it? 2020. I got vaccinated in March, and I got my first. I had 3 COVIDs, but the first wasn't as bad as the last 2. But anyway, my point was, it didn't work, and it didn't stop people. It maybe mitigated the effects, but it also had certain side effects we don't need to get into. So that's a disaster. We had Stephen Quay. He came on here. He was the PhD, MD researcher. He was very well known at Stanford Medical Center because he was the one that invented or found a dye contrast for a magnetic resonance imaging, MRIs, that nuclear, I think it is, gadolinium, I think it's called, or something like that. And he's, he had a company, I think he still does, that has immunotherapy for breast cancer, et cetera, et cetera. And he's been mentioned as somebody who might take over the now vacant National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. And he'd be a wonderful choice. And I hope he's a conservative, and as much as a medical person is political. But he's not going to be some raving. He's competent and he believes in the Trump agenda. So I think it would be a wonderful appointment.
Yeah. He's eloquent also. His podcasts with you, I think you did 3 interviews with him, were just some of the finest discussions I've ever heard
I'm going to have him
on the
on
topic.
next week, I think, about the
Oh,
hantavirus.
okay.
He wrote me about it. I mean, the way people were talking about it, they were talking about it as if it's a COVID-like, and you know what I mean, it's going to take
Right.
over the world. And I think he had a lot of experience with infectious diseases, and he's been,
Well,
he's very competent. So I think I'm looking forward to that when we get him on.